is AJ Riedel, and this is Thriving Through, the podcast where each week I have a real conversation with self-employed consultant about what it really takes to build a profitable consulting practice. So I have a question for you. What if the warning signs of a feast or famine cycle were flashing right in front of your eyes for months, but you were too buried in client work to see them? And what would you do when you finally hit that wall and realized your pipeline had completely dried up? Matt Molloy is here to talk about how he answered that question. He's the executive learning and development strategist and founder of MM3 Consulting. Matt is known for serving as a translator between EdTech companies and school districts. With 25 years of experience in education, he's helped educational leaders and product developers achieve successful implementation of educational technologies and leadership development. If you've ever been so focused on delivering client work that you ignored business development or wondered how to spot the warning signs before it's too late, you won't want to miss this episode. Please welcome Matt Molloy. Matt, tell us a story or two about the biggest challenges you faced building your practice and how you've overcome them.
Thank you very much. It's a terrific question. I think the first challenge is figuring out that I wanted to do something differently. I had spent 25 years working for an institution, an organization, doing work that I felt and feel. It hasn't changed how I feel about that work. It's really important. And when you're working at a large organization like that, you have the goals that you bring, and then they are highly directed in terms of where your energy goes and things like that. So I think the very first challenge happened as I was sort of coming to terms with the fact that my life had been evacuating a school, running a remote school, and then reconstituting a school. And when I got through the end of that life cycle, I felt like I had come to the end of something and I wanted to move on. And I think the very first challenge was being able to have those moments with yourself where you separate, like, do I want to move on because this has just been really draining and hard? Or am I running away from something, or am I running to something?
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that very first challenge was figuring out that I think I'm running to something. I think that there are things to do that I want to do in life, that I want to do as a professional, that I'm not going to be able to have the opportunity to do if I remain working for this large machine. Not because it does bad work, but because I'm just not going to get that opportunity to see and to forge my own path. So I think the very first challenge was figuring out that in those emotional moments of, like, do I want to do this? Is this the right decision that I'm making? Like, am I making this decision because that seems like the easy path, or am I making this decision because that's the rewarding future that I think I want to head to? And I think in that work, and I call it work because it's not something for me at least, that I do on my own or by flipping a coin or things like that. I did it by talking to people and
Okay.
having conversations with people and saying, this is where I feel I am. This is what I'd like to do, and this is what I don't want to do anymore, right? And, like, sort of like helping, talking with people I felt could help me figure those things out in that direction out. And then once I knew, yes, I want to be a business owner, right? That's almost getting into that mindset was the first challenge, and then I think the second was and is, right? It hasn't ended, and that's, where do I locate my value in that? Like, saying that I want to do it. Do I want to invest in, like, dry cleaners and do that sort of thing, and figure out, like, there's the niche. I could be a business person. I could figure out what the investment is, and I would encourage people to explore all of those things, because what they told me was, no, that's not the direction you want to go in, but that is a direction. And what I learned by looking at those possibilities was honing in on the value that I felt I had, and knowing that, like, well, I don't know how to package that, how to brand it, who wants to buy it or any of those other things. I do know that I have 25 years experience, of which 15 have been spent in leadership positions, um, in education. And in that time, I've learned to be good as a mentor and a coach to other leaders. In that time, I understand the system, and I understand that there are folks out there with great ideas and great products and super abilities who just don't know the system as well as I do. And that's a value in and of itself. And once I started to discover that, um, what my business was going to become, started to become very clear. It was not in the beginning.
Okay. And so as you started to recognize that your business, your you looked at your expertise and your experience, and you said my business has to have something to do with this.
Yes.
And I'm not going to go buy a dry cleaner or start a restaurant or do whatever million other options that you could do.
Mhm.
How did you land on the particular path that you took or the particular service and type of business that you started?
So this is also a really good question. I think that that's another one of those fundamental sort of moments in the development of things, and that's I did, and I don't think I'm dissimilar from other people. I did. I so when I worked at the Department of Education, I hired consultants. I frequently had a literacy coach advising at my school, and that person would play with two roles. They would advise me as the principal so that I understood what was happening in my classrooms because I know about literacy. It was what my career was based on, but it's not what I did every day as a school principal. And that
Mhm.
person also trained my teachers. So the very first thing I did was said to myself, well, I don't know that I should be necessarily a literacy coach, though I'm very strong at it in some elements and some aspects. So I can do that in high schools, and I can lend a lot of um, s- smarts and expertise to elementary folks around what that looks like and how you implement that and what that can be. But so my very first step was to like replicate what I already knew. Like I know that people are hired to advise about this. I know that they're hired to run professional development. I know that that's a niche that I was a part of as a district leader and as a central leader and as a principal. So that was my first move, was to say I can replicate the types of services that I've hired people to do. What I learned in that was that I located a good deal of my value, but not all of it, right? What I learned was I know how to do this.
One of the things that really stood out to me when we talked earlier was that the way you describe what you do is that you work as a translator between EdTech companies and school districts. How did you identify and develop this niche?
To locate that particular niche, what I started with was all of these companies have products and they need trainers. They need people who could say, this is how a teacher is going to want to use this. Or
Mhm.
you already have figured that out. You already figured out how a teacher may want to use this. Now you need somebody who's going to help them use it because that's an essential part of implementation at schools. And teachers have so many things thrown at them just between 7 a.m. and 8 a.m. Like forget like what their year looks like, what their day looks like. There's so much that comes at them that one of the things I learned is that folks designing these products, even if they were teachers, they've been far away long enough that that reality doesn't sit with them on a daily basis. And I
Mhm.
felt as a coach going into schools and a PD person working with teachers every day, I still had a pretty good understanding that like no matter how good that product is, no matter how good that tool is, we still need to set up an on-ramp that makes using this something somebody wants to do, which
Right.
could just be training. And sometimes training is just fulfilling the promise of it's a good product. Because a lot of people are like, listen, Matt, I've been given 6 products this week, right? I'm going to open them in due time, right? But part of that is also helping somebody see, like, of course you have, but the value of this one is X. And if you need that value next week, let's open it up and start playing with it now. Let's do one or two things now. So I started kind of riding shotgun with people who were had ideas or products or things they were implementing, to either be an advisor to them or to be somebody who helped with the training on site. And then in time started to say like, wow, this is a really fun niche in some respects, because I'm working with leaders who are designing products that they're putting their life and all their brain power into this thing, and they sit up at night hoping that a teacher will use it, and I could be part of the pathway for that to happen. And especially if you believe in the product, that feels really good.
That's I love how you found your niche is by identifying a gap, because like and it came out of you understanding teachers because you were hands-on in the education system for so many years that a lot of other consultants in that space probably can't make that claim. And the thing that was holding these companies that developed the products back was the implementation piece, which they didn't understand. You know, they thought they had the next best thing since sliced bread, and the
And they
teachers
very
are
well might.
looking at it, got it's just another piece of technology that I'm going to have to learn how to use. And I'm
Right.
already overwhelmed. You mentioned hitting a wall around year 2 or 3
Yeah.
when your warm circle dried up. So walk us through what that felt like day to day, and what were the warning signs that maybe you initially ignored when you hit that wall.
The warning signs were so crystal clear, and I had just not seen them because what I had done, I shared earlier, I was doing what I knew how to do. I'd taken on a contract turning around a school. So essentially, I was contracted as the principal, right? So I was doing a job I knew how to do. So because of that, what happened is my business blinders went on because I was doing the thing I knew how to do. I got laser focused on graduation rates. I got laser focused on the things that I know. These are the levers that principals pull. This is the thing I know how to do. So when I said that the warning signs were crystal clear, every blog I've read about business development, every one of those second conversations should have been a signal to me that there are a bunch of things you're not doing that business people do, Matt. You're not developing your pipeline here of what's happening next for you. You're not really networking because you're super focused on this job. I don't try to true to myself. I don't know that there's another way to do that to be a principal. But I so when I hit that wall, it was like, oh man, my head's been in this thing so deeply that I haven't seen what is clear writing on the wall, which is now that this is wound down, I don't have a network to go to. I don't have, I mean, I do. I had folks that I worked with, but I didn't have the next set of things lined up. I wasn't out working the room. I wasn't doing any of those other things. I wasn't even really very visible on LinkedIn because I was very
Because
in
you were
tune with what I
busy.
was doing.
You were very
So,
focused.
right. And
That is such a common mistake that consultants make. And that's part of why that's part of the reason for the feast or famine cycle, is when you're working on client work, you're completely focused on client work. And then all of a sudden that client work is over and you're going, oh my God, now what do I do?
right.
You know, and so you initially ignored those warning signs, but then finally your eyes were opened. What did you
Uh,
do at that point?
I suffered a bit, right? I didn't have contracts coming in right off the bat or anything like that. I was able to take because I developed enough of a niche for myself with companies that were looking to place consultants places that I was able to get what really were like not one off, not one day off, but like short term contracts where I was doing good work and things like that. But there was this growing feeling that like this is a hamster wheel. This is like I'm gonna get through one of these, and yes, they're not demanding my focus like that last big thing that I was doing did, but like
Mhm.
I don't see the way that this is gonna be right sustainable.
Yeah, kind of
Be,
turning out to be sort of a grind.
yeah, and
Yeah.
my big worry was like all of us, there are seasonal ebbs and flows to this as well. Like if I don't get the summer thing, whatever the summer thing is, in what the kind of work I was doing in professional development and leadership development, nobody wants to be around in July. And I
Right.
don't blame them, right? Like that's
Hmm.
not what we're doing right now, Matt. You're a consultant, come back. So I had those like, oh man, what am I gonna do in July? Like what's gonna happen? And so what I did to pivot, and I don't know if this is something like I just tried to immerse myself into every single conversation around business opportunity that I could. And some like one was on working on a podcast. And I got like 3 days, 4 days into the collaboration, thought, I'm sorry, this is like there was things that I know how to do and I do not know how to do this. And like, and it was that felt at the time like difficult, but it was also, I knew that I had to have my oars of the water. I needed to be moving. I needed to be trying these things out. I needed to try to find what it was that was working. And all of that to say, what eventually kind of lined up was not a far fetched thing that I was doing, but the energy that I kept up around like I know that I'm bringing a value to this. I know that this is that I could bring things to the table that people want. Um, had to I had to keep doing that. I had to keep bringing it to different tables. And sometimes that was the meal you eat during the feast of famine cycle, right? Like sometimes it was that, and sometimes it was like, oh, I can see this turning into something that I can develop in a niche for myself within. And that's, I'm in the third year. That's where I'm located right now. So I'm hopeful. I feel good that I've gotten past the wrong word, through the time where I'm just kind of replicating the only thing I know to
Hmm.
like now I understand that I have a portfolio to offer. Like I can work with people developing products and incubate their leadership and incubate their ideas. I can work with districts who are looking to find the right readers for their kids, because that's a company that I've been working with and I believe in, and I can have those conversations with people and hope that that this is the right match, right? And be feel good that that's the niche that I've worked myself into, and it feels a lot more like the things that are lining up are a lot more the things that I would look for in terms of I could look to the future a little bit more and not think, wow, I hope I find the next school that needs a guy like me. Now I know that there's a bunch of different places that I can bring that same value to and
Hmm.
and keep working.
Okay. One of the big shifts is that you have to do this thing called marketing that you probably didn't have to do.
Nope, not at all.
So, how, first of all, what did you think of marketing when you first started out? And how has that changed?
I don't think I thought of marketing at all. I think what I thought of was, and I remember I was also operating in some warm circles, right? So
Hmm.
marketing to me, I oversimplified it in my own mind to like, it's my reputation, right? Which is, of course, enormously important. I don't mean to undersell that at all,
No, it's what, but it's one part
right?
of marketing.
But the whole systematized aspect of it was not anything that occurred to me. And
Mhm.
yeah, I mean, I should probably feel more badly about that saying that than I do. But no, it was one of those like, I mean, I didn't understand it. I worked in an organization that we're the biggest school system in the country. Like, yes, there are things that we worked with marketing teams over, and I saw that happen, but like not in the same way of like I'm this one guy and I need people in this world to know what I
What you
do.
do.
Right.
Yes. Yeah,
Um,
you need to generate leads.
right. And to go back to a dead horse, I mean, the place where did I learn about it? Having those conversations with other people and having those conversations with other people I'm not here to compete with you, right? I'm here to collaborate. I think we do similar things, or I think like you do a thing and I could be a good partner to that. One way you could be a good partner to me is like, man, put me into this marketing mindset. Like, help me understand um, how this works, right? So, I mean, the first time somebody told me, like, well, when I look at somebody's LinkedIn profile, this is what I looked at. My first thought was, you look at people's LinkedIn? Like I really was just far off. I mean, I'm
Hmm.
sure they did, but I didn't. You look strategically? Like you really have a system in your head as to how you're going to evaluate me? Like that had me immediately thinking about that profile in ways that I never did before. I mean, I would just update my job, thank people for happy birthday, like
Yeah.
look to
Yeah,
see who else got a job. And
it was not a marketing tool for you. It was simply what the way it is for most users. It's a way, of keeping in touch with people. It's a way of letting people know. It's maybe a little, you can learn things from it, but it's not a marketing tool. Whereas for you as a self-employed consultant, it is definitely an important marketing tool that you had to learn all about.
I think the answer quick, I had to get unshy about it.
Looking back, you're now in your third year.
Mhm.
What do you wish you had known at the beginning that you know now that you didn't know then?
It's a really good question. I think I would want to know some version of advice that I used to give people, which is when, I would work with new teachers. That was what I did for a very long time. And then the opportunity to work with new leaders as well. And like, there's always a moment where, they're good at their work, but they may be dissatisfied with where they are. And I always said, like, the school system's 1,800 schools big. There's 1.2 million kids here. There is niche upon niche upon niche. You will find a place. If you're talented, you'll find a place. If you want to do this, there's a place for you here, and you got to find it. And in my own work, in my own progress, I became too myopic to see that advice as like, so I kept on, like, for a while when it was like, okay, you've moved on and you're trying to open up new pathways, but a lot of the proposals that I kept chasing were the ones that I was comfortable with, the one that I was familiar with. And like, it makes total sense to me looking back at it in a lot of
Mm-hmm.
ways. Like, it worked for me once. I want it to work for me again. I want to be comfortable. I want to feel confident in what I'm doing. Um, but that lesson of like, there's a million different contexts by which this value and this expertise can play out. That was one context, maybe two, maybe three, but there's countless numbers of them. At least tap your toes into them, and find out if they're deep. And that there was a struggle there, maybe like a 4 to 5, maybe 6 month struggle, where even though I knew that was the right thing, I was in that feast-or-famine cycle. I was worried for myself, and I
Mm-hmm.
was myopic to advice that I freely gave, which is, in the city system always said, like, every school is as different as their principal. You
You
gotta
can find a
find,
place.
yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. It
I think
sounds
that's
like you were at the beginning, you were following things that you know how to do, but your heart was saying, I don't want to do this again. And you were, and understandably, we have a brain that fights discomfort. So you wanted to be confident, you wanted to be comfortable. Well, the way the confidence and comfortable is doing things that you've done before. But that wasn't what was going to make you satisfied on a long-term basis. And you were fighting that very classic tussle of, in order to do what my heart is telling me I want to do, I have to do things that I'm uncomfortable doing and that I'm not confident doing, and trust that I will get comfortable and confident over time, but be willing to do that.
and in the spirit of collaboration, I actually feel confident, more confident hearing you say that, knowing what your background is and knowing that you've had these conversations with people. Because I just knowing that, it gives me even another tool to have a conversation with another person I'm collaborating with.
Oh,
Like,
good.
even if I were to describe, like, I'm in that wilderness right now. I'm not positive which way I want to go. You've given me a bit more confidence even in this conversation to know that that person I'm talking to is very likely to know what I'm talking about. That I can
Yep.
expose that about myself, and however it lands, it's gonna land at least as familiar and maybe it adds to the collaboration. Maybe it adds to my learning about what I'm curious here. And that's, how am I going to muscle through this particular cycle or this particular phase that I'm in? I have this set of tools that worked, but you know, those phases are tough. You need a lot of tools.
Exactly. Yes, exactly. Well, thank you so much for being my guest today. This is Matt Molloy. Uh, thank you very much. What an incredible session with Matt Molloy. If there's one takeaway I want you to remember from today's episode, it's this. The warning signs of a feast or famine cycle are often crystal clear in hindsight, but they're invisible when you're laser focused on client delivery. Matt's honest reflection that every blog I read about business development, every one of those second conversations I had should have been a signal to me, shows how easy it is to miss what's right in front of us when we have our heads down doing the work. Matt taught us that the solution isn't just about spotting the warning signs, it's about building systems and relationships that work even when you're busy. His approach of collaborative networking and constantly nurturing his pipeline, even during client peak work, is what ultimately helped him break free of the feast or famine cycle. So here's your action step. Right now, while you're listening to this, honestly assess your current pipeline of clients and projects. If your biggest client ended tomorrow, how long could you sustain your business? If that answer makes you uncomfortable, don't wait until you hit the wall like Matt did. Start one conversation this week with a potential collaborator, a past client, or someone in your network. Make pipeline development a non-negotiable part of your weekly routine, not something you do when you're desperate. The warning signs are probably flashing right now. The question is, are you paying attention? Thanks for joining me on Thriving Through. Until next time, keep your eyes open for those warning signs, keep nurturing your relationships, and keep thriving through whatever challenges come your way.